My name is Mike Zuccarelli. I'm the co-founder of Terra Hosting and the chief marketing officer. I was a cop for 10 years. I was 7 full-time, and now it's been about 3 since I've been on kind of like a reserve status. I'm still certified through the state, so no big deal there. So I was sitting on the couch one night, and I'm like looking up passive income ideas, right? And the first video I saw was a YouTuber named Seb Heslow. And Seb was talking about crypto mining, and I had no idea what it was. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go head first. I'm gonna, dump a couple $100,000. I'm gonna do this and we're gonna make crazy money. That lasted about a year. Going from mining in my house, then to a warehouse. I started a hosting company kind of right in the middle of that. There was a lot of people who didn't have the electrical infrastructure to run their GPUs. So I decided, well, I have all this extra space and this extra power and I'm not buying any more units. I'm already a lot of money in. Why don't I just host these units for people? In the meantime, between all that, I met Mike Maffa, who at the time owned GPU Risers, which was a very popular GPU mining accessory company.
My name is Michael Maffa. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and in-house counsel for Terra Hosting. Prior to Terra Hosting, I owned a company. I still operate the company. It's called GPU Risers. Through that, I worked with a lot of content creators. And one of the smaller content creators at the time was Hawk Crypto Mining, which is now my partner, Mike.
A mutual friend in the community introduced me to Mike Maffa, and we met for drinks at a bar, and then the rest is all history. And then 6 months later, we started Terra Hosting.
I'm on my way to the facility right now.
Lights and see. There we go. So that looks pretty good. There we go. Back up to that. This is it. On this rock, I will build my church. So the story of the Melbourne location is a little interesting. So when we started here, we had nothing. I was drowning in debt. I had a kid on the way, and I'm like, this has gotta work, right? But I remember the first night me and Mike, my partner, came here and we found this place through a realtor. And it was a gold mine. I'm telling Mike, I'm like, we need this place. It's got the power, the security. It's a little far from home, a couple hours, but so what? We'll make that drive, not a big deal. And I just was so excited we walked in. The videos that we took early on with our YouTube channels were awesome. Our community was excited. Everybody was just all up about it. It was great. Moving in here was not without its challenges. We had to wait, a long time to get our fiber connection in. We had to rip up all the old hardware. It's got a giant false floor, and we had to rip up all the old copper, throw things out. And our landlord at the time, he was great. He helped us out a lot. And this facility was really like our entrance into the semi-pros. It was our first real big move into turning Terra Hosting into a giant company.
We eventually landed on a building in Melbourne, Florida. That's kind of where everything started. That's where we could move things out of Mike's warehouse, the Hawk Crypto Mining, and move it into its new home at Terra. And so we kind of absorbed that and brought it into this old data center, or old AT&T for telecoms back in the day. And we retrofitted this entire place from under the floor to in rooms that we didn't want to be in.
Now, Melbourne was originally just to host all the GPUs and a few of the ASICs that we have, but realizing real fast that we outgrew that, the electrical prices in Florida were too expensive, even for commercial, we needed something else. So instead of getting rid of Melbourne, we turned it into a proof of concept data center.
In Melbourne, this is where I think the inception of Terra came. This was our first facility that we got. We tore everything out of here. And over the years, what's crazy to think, it's been 2.5, 3 years almost, is this place completely looks different than when we were first here. These aisles here had all GPU miners in them, all of them. Now it's all filled with AI, and we moved the GPU miners out to Kansas and eventually decommissioned them and now only do ASIC mining. So I'll give a little bit of a rundown of this, a little bit of the history, which starting over here is kind of a good glimpse of what this place looked like when we first got it. First is our network rack right here. This network rack is Lumen. It's a 100 gig tunnel, which took 8 months to get, which is crazy. It's very expensive every month. We pay thousands of dollars for this internet. So I am not allowed to touch that at all or even get in the vicinity of that. This building, when we first got it, was filled with stuff like this, which this is a fiber bridge between, for this one, is Vero Beach and Cocoa Beach. And this is what this entire building was filled with. Fiber bridges and also telecommunications. This building was first built in 2001, 2002. You can see the false floor everywhere. It was all telecoms, no internet, and just this fiber, which we don't know what it is. We have a couple of conspiracy theories about it, which we might get into a little bit later, but this is what the entire floor looked like. So we ripped all of these out, but we kept this so that we were always reminded kind of what this first looked like when we got it. Now we could jump over to these couple servers that we have. This was our very first server that we got. This was a this is not a 42U, I think a 36U rack that we actually got from the UK, which is kind of a weird thing because in the UK, I think a lot of European countries also, they decommission older hardware and they don't really reuse the old hardware. So they sell it for dirt cheap, and that's why we bought it, is we were all self-funded in the beginning and we had to start with this. So it looks a little disorganized. I think the best way to kind of look at Melbourne and how I started looking at it as a team is that this is more of a lab and we experiment in here. That's why stuff is everywhere. It's not meant to be clean. It's not meant to be sparkling and all of that. Eventually, that's what it will be, but we've learned as we've been going that this is just learning. This is a proof of concept, and that's how we're keeping it. So you can see all these different servers that we have in here, and there's a lot of lessons that can be learned. We've been working on these for years. We started with smaller boxes like in here, which I think we have a couple of them actually over here. These were all the original servers that we got for just Flux nodes and just VMs that customers would buy. And I think we learned the tough lesson that building servers without redundancies is not a true server, and it creates more problems than it's worth. So we've slowly been converting them over to full Epic servers with power redundancies and internet redundancies. That's a whole thing I didn't even think about in the beginning. Switching from copper to fiber, kind of just growing as we've been evolving here. Finally, you can see at the bottom there, we do have a couple of battery backups, which these backups are 240, 5,000 watt backups, intense backups. We actually had to hardwire all of these, which is something I've never done before, but this has saved us many times. Although the power in this building is very consistent, about 2 to 3 times a year, the power will just flicker or shut down even for maybe a minute or two. And when it comes to these servers, it doesn't play nice with it. So having these battery backups is a huge change for us. But again, the capital cost of that is pricey. So we've been kind of doing it one by one. The most important things that we've been checking off, like the power redundancies and internet redundancies, and then moving on to other things. So that's why we have a graveyard here of servers. Don't use these anymore at all. We're decommissioning all of these. A fun fact, actually, with all these servers, cases that you see, anything with like I don't want to say yellow, but like an off-white, we picked up from a warehouse down in Miami. Me and one of the partner, Mike Zuccarelli, we picked up 2 big enterprise trucks. And there was this warehouse that was just, they were just trying to get rid of everything. It was all free. And so we went down there and picked up every server rack that you see in here. We got super lucky with that, but that's a whole other story.
We were in Melbourne. I went over, kind of all of our operations there and what we're doing. That company is called Terra Compute, and that's not really a public-facing company. We don't advertise really because we don't have any services that we currently offer for it. High-power computing, and AI compute machines that we build, custom build, and we rent out on various different marketplaces. And we also find customers, private clients that may need machine rentals.
This is more of a traditional rack. It's a 42U rack, but it's also very wide and deep. It's meant for AI servers. So it might be a little bit loud, but you can kind of see in here the organization of what we're going for. And so these are 2 AI servers in here. In each one, there's 8 card 4090s. And this is what the future is going to look like. This is actually the last server case that we built and the final proof of concept that we have for wire management, power management, for when we eventually migrate this whole facility to Indiana. These servers are what we first started with AI. So after we got rid of all the GPUs, we decided we are going to venture into AI, which is not like GPU mining at all. It's a lot more complicated, but they look very similar. So this was our first setup, was 2 ATX power supplies, server motherboard, 5 4090s on an open air frame. And this was the proof of concept. This was like, okay, is it going to make money? What's the capital cost of really building this out? Because it's not just the machine, it's all the spare parts that you need to have, all the switches that go into it. And there was a lot of learning lessons with this. And like you saw on the past server, it all started with this. There's a lot of points of failures on these. We had custom cables that were made that alleviated a lot of the problems, but it's still just, it wasn't purpose built like the servers are. So we started with all of these, eventually migrated to the server cases. We actually can't turn these off. All of these are rented to customers. Specifically, these machines are split up into multiple VMs. That means multiple customers. So we cannot shut these machines off. It takes weeks of advance notice to shut them off. But our plan is to migrate all of these over to the server cases like you just saw. That is going to take some time. That's something we're going to do.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Mike, Hot Crypto. So if you were watching the last episode of Terra Hash Tuesday, you might have heard me mention that we found a bunch of server racks at a warehouse in Miami that they're just giving away. And apparently they're brand new. So we just got here. Let's get inside and let's find out what's going on.
During this time between starting my farm and the hosting company, I started really getting into YouTube. We were looking to take it to the next level, getting out of my warehouse.
It started in Mike's warehouse, just say 50 units. And then it went to Melbourne, which got to 200 units. And then we had to migrate it out of Melbourne to Kansas, which was turned into over 1,000 units. And then that's where we are today, 2 years later, actually. It's crazy to say that's 2 years after Kansas.
You come over here, we can kind of see the spaghetti wire disaster, which we're not afraid to show it anymore. We're proud of it because it's part of the history. Spaghetti wire! We can't fix the spaghetti wire again because the machines are on. So it's one of those learning lessons that it's better to organize it before you turn it on, right? So we learned that.
So Mike picked me up. We headed to the Melbourne location to just kind of go over a bunch of stuff before we left for this 2-week adventure to Indiana. So came and got me really early in the morning because Mike's an early bird. I'm probably half asleep when he comes to pick me up. And we head to Melbourne.
When you build machines that aren't purpose-built for what they're doing, you're going to come into headaches, right? So that's a big thing. That's why, again, I showed you the other server, but we can go over here real quick. I can show you some of the other servers that we've had here. And again, just testing, right? It's constant testing. And that I never really understood from a business perspective what R&D really was and why do all these companies spend so much money doing R&D. And now I think I have a pretty good picture of why that's, on their P&L is why that's such a big expense. Some of these servers that we have here, again, test servers, are probably most expensive servers. This one right here. This one has all data center grade cards in it, L40Ss specifically. And what's beautiful about that server is it's a name brand server. It's not a server like this one or that one that's from China. It comes built, you put the cards in and it just works, which is honestly magic compared to what we're used to. But you can see all the different iterations of server cases that we've gone through. We have another one here that kind of mimics the 5-card ones over on that side. Tons of problems with that. You could probably, the best difference you can see here, this is dented in. It has the power redundancies. It just doesn't have fan redundancies. You don't get alerts when a fan goes bad. You don't know unless you hear it, right? Which it's kind of loud in here. So going around trying to listen for things constantly, it's difficult. This one's your 8-card server. There's 8 5090s in this one. So this is, I want to say, the newest 8-card rendition server case that we've been testing. And this one's been working out pretty good. It doesn't have the exact redundancies like a purpose-built server has, but it's getting pretty close. In here, we have 3 more. These are all 4090s. One other thing we kind of learned here is all of these breakers, all the power that you see that's ran on the bottom here, they're all 30 amp breakers at 240, which you're really only gonna be pushing about 5,000 watts max on these. We like to keep it around 4,500. When you have a server case or a server rack with 5 server cases in it, you're gonna need 5 PDUs in there. And we've kind of learned that that is not how we're gonna be doing this in Indiana. We're gonna be doing full 3-phase, 25 kV PDUs on each side, connected to different breakers that are connected to different panels, that are connected to different switchgear that's then connected to different transformers. So we've learned all of it going through with all of this. You can see a couple of our testing actually, because the open air frame were all 5 cards. We started with that I think it was like a power management type thing. How are you gonna connect so many different consumer grade PSUs to that? And then we migrated over to testing 8-card ones like you can see here, which has 4 consumer grade power supplies daisy chained together, which to put it nicely, is a nightmare. This maxes out one of these PDUs, and that's when we were finally like, we have to move these into server cases. We can't just have Husky racks laying around everywhere. There's no power redundancies. You have one failure in there, it goes kaput. So this was right before we moved over to server cases, but that's kind of a general consensus of the history that we've had in Melbourne. I know I summed it up here in a couple minutes, but it's been about 2.5, 3 years of just blood, sweat, and tears in here. And we're excited to move all of this and consolidate all of it in server cases, use the knowledge that we've built here and that we've learned, and move it to Indiana onto bigger and better things with this. So we're excited for that.
It's a time lapse, and I love giving those tours of that place because I'm very proud of it. I know our team is very proud of it. It shows, where we started. And a funny thing with that too is a lot of data centers continue to, have that same story, because once you put the machines online, you can't take them off. Or if you do migrate them, then it's like, okay, well, why would I get rid of the old hardware? So a lot of data centers kind of start like that.
Without Melbourne, none of this would have ever been possible. So really expanding the company would have never happened without the success of what we built here and the proof of concept that we built here.
We scraped together every dollar we could, but we really needed some funding. And that's where we kind of brought on some other partners.